Welcome to this webinar. In this webinar, I'm going to talk about how to scale your real estate business to 1 million per year. I'm going to talk about how to break the cycle and finally grow your real estate business predictably. To start out with, who is Lead Estate? Who am I? My name is Koen. I'm the founder of Lead Estate. We have over 6 years in experience in client acquisition, marketing and sales in the real estate industry. We're currently working with about 60 real estate agencies, developers, and are active in over 15 countries worldwide. We are working with the biggest real estate brands, from developers to real estate agencies like Sotheby's, The Agency, John Taylor, Charlton International. We've worked with Forbes. We're excited to share everything with you today. Since we've generated hundreds of millions worth of real estate transactions for our clients, I've learned a few things along the way, and I'm happy to share them with you today. So just some results, so you can see that what we do actually works. Just an example, we generated 3.4 million in transactions in just 10 weeks for a luxury real estate agency in Spain. But we also help companies with their systems and internal operations. We helped Taylor in South Africa basically implement the systems and automations and structures in his business that he was able to get out of the business and only work on his business instead of in his business. And hence why we have tons of great reviews that you can see on the screen right now as well. What I want to briefly talk about is actually who this webinar is for. This is mainly for real estate companies, whether it's agencies or developers, that lose thousands because of an inconsistent follow-up process, not following up with leads, agents not following up with leads, etc. Real estate agencies or agents that want to grow past 1 million per year. Again, if you're an agency that just started out and want to do your first 100,000 this year, the same processes apply. Or if you want to grow from 1 million to 5 million per year, also the same processes apply. But usually 1 million is a big target for everyone working in real estate. And these strategies that I'm going to explain in this webinar are definitely going to help you with that. This is also applied for developers, real estate developers that actually want to build their internal marketing and sales team, right? Instead of working with agencies to sell their properties or only being dependent on agencies to sell their properties. It's for agencies and developers that have tried everything, but nothing has worked. They have spent tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands on marketing, but nothing has really worked or generated a return on investment. Agencies and developers that are dependent on their network to close deals and are not really growing exponentially. Owners that want to work on their business instead of in their business. And owners that want to improve the performance of their marketing and sales team. Why have I created this webinar in the first place? I speak to over 15 new real estate agencies and developers every single month. They all say the same things to me. We've spent thousands on marketing agencies with zero returns, or lead generators, or external companies. We've tried everything, but nothing works. Portals don't work for us anymore. I want to scale, but I don't know where to start, or I'm stuck. Our marketing team is simply not performing, or our sales team is just simply not following up with leads. We tried running ads, but it didn't work. The leads were low quality. There can be 100 things why, but these are the main reasons that I hear pretty much every single week. What I want you to know is that it's not just about the leads. It's also not just about the specific strategy that you're using. It's not just about the platform, where to advertise, where to do marketing. And it's not just about the market conditions. It's all about the system. And somewhere in the system, you're experiencing inefficiencies. And as long as you don't understand and implement the right system, you will keep being stuck in the same loop over and over again. This is what I hear every single day from real estate agencies and developers that I speak to. First, either they start their business or they have been operating for a few years, and they're mainly growing through their network and referrals, friends and family, old clients, because they deliver a good service. But always at some point, you feel like you're kind of stuck. You feel like you're growing too slowly, you want to grow faster, or you're simply stuck at a specific amount per year. So you think, okay, hey, outside of my network and referrals, I need to do more. I need to start, investing into my business. I need to start investing into marketing, into leads, etc. So you start investing and you look around, okay, let's buy leads, or let's work with an external marketing company, or let's hire someone in the team. And in 95% of the times, you fail and you waste profits. The most common thing that I hear for agencies and developers in real estate is like, yeah, we've tried this before, it didn't work. And then you fail and you waste all of your profits on this marketing company or this marketing strategy. And then you think, hey, yeah, well, network and referrals, that's the only thing that I can rely on. So you go back to only focusing on your network and referrals. You keep getting profits, and then you're kind of stuck at the same point where you were before, right? And it still keeps frustrating you because you see other companies that implement marketing processes that do work and that do generate a return on investment. So again, you have the new profits that you've made, and it's time to invest again in your business, and you fail and you waste profits, right? Only to go back to network and referrals, getting more deals from network and referrals, trusting on what you know, then being stuck in the same at the same revenue per year, being frustrated and wanting to invest in your business again. And meanwhile, you're blaming the leads, you're blaming the strategy, the platform, and you're blaming anything else but the only thing that will actually create the results. And this might be confronting, but that's you. You as the business owner have the sole responsibility to make the system work. And if something in that system is not working, it's your responsibility to fix it. So yes, that might be confronting, I understand, but it is time to break this cycle once and for all. And like I said in the beginning, at the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you something that will help you break this cycle a lot more quickly than by doing it all yourself. The longer you wait for other companies to break the cycle for you, the longer it will keep happening. The longer you will blame a marketing agency, blame the leads, blame the lead generator, blame your team, the longer this will keep happening. The longer you will stay stuck in this cycle. Because only you can break the cycle. You understand the cycle that you're in. You understand that you're stuck in this cycle. But what keeps you actually trapped? Usually there's limited marketing budget. You outsource the marketing to a company that's cheap or that does it for cheaper, but then you end up losing money anyway because they don't get results. And you keep trying to find a marketing company that can do it for cheap and consistently being in the same cycle of not getting results. Or you try to do everything yourself and you need to figure everything out, which wastes a lot of money. So you hire a team internally, and maybe you hire someone that just graduated from marketing, and kind of they need to figure everything out themselves as well. And you just waste a lot of time and money. Or you're doing 1,000 things at the same time. You're doing viewings, marketing, management, especially for a boutique agency if you're self-employed. You're doing 1,000 things at the same time. Or for bigger teams, you usually have no idea what your marketing team is actually doing because you don't understand the process. And if something that I've learned in the 6 years that I've had this company is that every position in my company, I have done myself. So I know exactly how it should work. And if you hire a marketing agency or if you hire a marketing team, you should yourself know at least a little bit what they're doing and what the strategy should look like so you can keep them accountable on it. Or you're investing in multiple strategies at the same time. You don't even have one thing that's working, so you have your specific marketing budget and you do organic marketing and you do advertising on Meta and you do advertising on Google and SEO and a website. You do multiple strategies at the same time, spreading your advertising budget thin and not really focusing on one thing to make that thing work. And usually there's just simply no clear intention behind your marketing. And that's what I really see a lot. It's like, oh yeah, we have a marketing budget. Let's see how we're going to spend it today. Well, the results depends on where you're going to spend it. So in the end, there's just no clear intention behind your marketing. And there are hundreds of different reasons why you're stuck in this endless cycle. I can name even more. But in 95% of the cases, all these reasons are the result of one thing. And it might not be what you expected because you're not specific in what you want, right? And you're not intentional with the actions needed to achieve this goal. You simply have no clarity in your point B. And I want you all to ask yourself, like, is your point B where you want to go, where you want to be in 1 year, where you want to be in 3 years with your company in terms of revenue, for example? Is that extremely clear or is that still vague? Because usually your goals and your targets are vague. Your actions are not actually aligned with your goals and your targets. You maybe have goals and targets, but you're still doing the same thing. You spend your marketing budget randomly without clear intention. You're prioritizing leads, but your internal systems are chaos. You are running your business without even looking at the data. And data is everything, which we will talk about later in this webinar as well. And maybe you are wishing for me to say something else, to give you the strategy right away. And don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get to the strategy, we'll get to the process, we'll get to the system. But that system will never work if you're not clear on this. The biggest lesson you can take away from this webinar is that everything is related to your point B. Your point A is where you are now, your point B is where you want to go, what your specific revenue goal is, what your specific goal is with the company. And everything is based on that. Everything that you do, every action that you should implement in your business is all related to that point B. And if your point B is not specific, then you are not intentional with your marketing. You are not intentional with your hiring. You are not intentional with the companies that you work with. You are not intentional in the way you grow your business. So everything is related to your point B. How much deals you need to reach that point B. How much appointments you need for that. How much leads you need to create to achieve this goal. What targets does your sales team actually need to hit? Which conversion rates? What qualities does your team need to have? And how much advertising budget do you need to invest to actually get the amount of leads, appointments, and deals that you want? How much team capacity do you actually need to fulfill the service to X amount of clients? What processes, systems, and standards need to be in place, and much more. By knowing your exact point B, you will be able to precisely plan the growth trajectory of your business instead of guessing and trying and hoping. And without it, you keep being stuck in the same loop. You keep being unintentional with your actions, your investments, your marketing process, your sales process, your hiring. If you don't have clarity, you can never operate intentionally and you can never grow predictably. So let me give you an example on this and how we completely changed this real estate agent's perspective. I was visiting this real estate agency, right? And he did 500,000 euros per year, which is his point A. And I asked him, okay, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? What do you want in your business? And he gave me the answer that, again, 90% of real estate agencies and developers give me. Yeah, we just need more deals. We need more leads, more connections, and we need better systems and a better team. Our team needs to operate more efficiently. They need to do better. They need to close more deals, talk to more people. Okay? What is more? What is better? What is more efficient? How do you know from this where you actually want to go and what you actually need to implement, right? So we went to dig a little deeper for this client and asked him, what do you actually want? Like, what's the revenue that you want? He said 1.5 million. I said, like, hey, is this a thought through? Is this based on data? Or he's like, yeah, okay, 1 million. I asked him, okay, is it 1 million or is it 1 million? Right? And you already see that it's simply not clear. So how do you expect how many leads to generate, how many connections to make, how many deals you want, which systems to implement, what your team needs to do if you're not even clear about where you're going to go? So we eventually settled on 1 million, right? And if you look at point A, now he made 200,000 last year from his network. He made 150,000 euros from the portals, but he also made 150,000 euros from the ads. And he was spending about 1,000 per month on advertising budget. And what I said here is like, why are you not spending more? Yeah, I know. Okay, so we looked at what he was doing and he was still spending 1,000 per month on advertising budget. He was still doing the same in his network. He was still spending the same on portals. So we went and figured out, okay, how do you actually get to that million? What strategies and systems and processes do we need to have in place? Well, we saw that he was already generating a 12x return on investment from his advertising, right? He was spending 12,000 per year on advertising budget and you generated 150,000 from ads. So to make it extremely simple, the only thing that he needed to do is spend 4,500 per month on advertising budget and he would generate an extra 500,000, which gets him to that 1 million. But it's not always this simple, right? So what if your ads are not performing or you don't even have a process that's working? You're just depending on your network and referrals, right? Well, then you need to implement a process like that. That will actually get you a return on investment and scale. What if your team doesn't even hit their targets? You have a very different problem, right? The bottleneck is different for every single business. So let's find out yours. Let's do an exercise together, which we call the point A to point B exercise. And don't worry, it's not going to be only this mindset webinar. Knowing where you want to go is not a mindset thing. It's not about setting goals. It's a specific strategy to reverse engineer all the actions that you need to do to get to that point. So let's reverse engineer your entire business by doing this exercise. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down your point A. What's the revenue that you did last year? Or maybe so far. Stick to one point A. Then I want you to write down on the right side of your paper what your point B is. So let's in this example say you want to do an 800,000 and last year you did 500,000. Then I want you to ask yourself the question, okay, what's the gap? What's the gap between point A and point B? So imagine this gap is 300,000 euros. And then I want you to think, okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing right now, if I don't make any changes, what will I do? How much revenue will I do this year? And usually this is the same as last year. Usually I see businesses not really doing anything specifically to change. So let's say without doing anything, you will get to a 500,000 this year. So that means that the gap between point A and point B is still 300,000. Then I want you to calculate your average deal size or commission. For developers, it works a little different. I'm giving this example for an agency. For developers, you can calculate it in profit or you can calculate it in the total transaction value, for example. But in the end, it works the same. Let's say your average commission is 25,000 euros. I would always be conservative with these numbers. So if it's actually 30,000, well, write 25,000 down because maybe something happens and it ends up being lower, right? So be conservative with these numbers. Then simply you want to divide the gap by your average deal size. And I hope you guys are still writing things down, right? And being interactive, because later you will realize what difference it will make. In this example, 300,000 divided by 25,000 is 12. That means you need to close 12 deals extra this year. Then you want to calculate your average closing rate from appointment to deal. So what we do for clients is we schedule Zoom appointments. So from Zoom appointments, let's say 10% closes into a deal. If you already have these numbers and calculate it a little differently, like for example, you calculate the Zoom appointment or the phone appointment to viewing, for example, and then from viewing to deal, it works exactly the same. Make sure you calculate these numbers, right? But let's make it simple and say from appointment to deal, we close about 10%. Well, then you just have to calculate how much appointments you need to hit your goal, which is, if you want to close 12 deals and you close 10%, 120 appointments. So see what we've done here. We've gone from, oh, I need more deals and more appointments and I need a better team and I need better systems. From that all the way to the exact amount of qualified appointments that you and your team need to schedule extra this year to reach your goal. We've broken it down so simply, so simple, that it gives you so much clarity on, okay, what strategies will actually get me to 120 appointments. But we can even go further, and this is especially valuable with doing online advertising. Real estate agencies and when real estate companies work with lead estate, on average, we have about 20% of our leads convert into a qualified appointment with people that have the budget, the timeline, and want to schedule an appointment. So if we use that reference that we have for over 60 clients worldwide, then we should generate an extra 600 leads this year. So calculate this for you now as well. Write it down. And then you can actually calculate how much leads per month you need to generate. So in order to reach your goal, you need to generate an extra 50 leads per month. And then you can actually calculate the cost per lead if you already have a predictable process. And for example, we never really go higher than a 50 euro cost per lead. So if you want to generate 50 leads that convert 20%, and we have all this data, that's why I know this. For you, it might be a bit more difficult, I understand that. But let's say the cost per lead is 50 euros. We need to keep under 50 euros. Then we need a marketing budget of 2,500 euros per month to hit your goal of generating an extra 300,000 this year. And now we've gone from more leads and being vague, more leads and better deals and better team, to being so specific that we know the exact marketing budget and the exact KPIs that we need to keep everyone accountable this year. And everyone who doesn't hit these KPIs needs to improve. This is where it starts. I know you're eager to get into the process and the secrets and everything, but The secret is that you just need to follow the basics like this. So how does the scaling process then work? Well, first you need to identify the strategies that are scalable, because you can't really scale your network quickly, right? Your network is very powerful, referrals are very powerful, and you are able to implement strategies that can increase those, but it's not necessarily scalable or measurable right away. But advertising is measurable and scalable. Marketing is measurable and scalable. Exhibitions are even measurable and scalable, right? In theory, you could measure everything. But if you go to an exhibition, for example, and you know that you spend 10,000 on an exhibition and you get 50 leads every exhibition that turn into 5 deals, then you can calculate exactly what you get in return on every exhibition, and you can just scale visiting more exhibitions, just as an example, right? So then if you know which strategies are scalable, then you identify which strategies you have in your business that are already working. Which strategies generate a predictable and measurable return on investment. So it's possible that you have these or you don't have these. So if you identify them, and you identified, for example, that ads or exhibitions, like in my exhibition in my example now, and ads in the example that I gave for the real estate agency that we helped, then you just scale that budget, right? It's very simple. If you're already generating a return on investment, just scale that budget. And if it doesn't exist, if you only depend on network and referrals, you don't have a strategy or nothing has worked so far, then it's time to focus on one specific strategy and really becoming a specialist in that, so that you make that predictable and measurable and that you get a return on investment. And once you have return on investment on this process, you scale it until you reach the numbers that you need to reach to hit your goals. What we are trying to do is we're trying to make it very simple. Not easy. We're trying to make it very simple so you can put all your time and effort on reaching those specific KPIs and numbers. And that's very difficult in real estate, but it is our mission at Lead Estate to bring back the predictability and measurability to the client acquisition process in real estate. What I want to focus on is how to actually reach your point B, how to know your numbers, and what strategy will get you there. So this is the exact process that we've mapped out. The funny thing is that every one of you that is watching this webinar already has this process in place. Everyone has its way of generating leads, right? Whether it's through referrals or a network or advertising or whatever way you're using. Most of you have a CRM system already that you collect your leads in. And you probably have someone that calls leads, or multiple people that call leads. We call it the inside sales agent. And you schedule appointments, you build relationships, and you close the deals, right? Maybe some of you don't have any automations in place. You get some referrals. But the reason why you're here is because this process is just not operating efficiently, right? Your leads are not converting. Your CRM system is inefficient. Your team is not following up. They're not updating the CRM system. You don't have automations in place, so the automations don't work. But this is the process that you should implement in whichever strategy you use. If you do organic, it's exactly the same. If you do paid advertising, it's exactly the same. You need to implement this process according to a specific structure. And that's why we have created the growth formula. The growth formula has 6 steps. So this whole system, we've kind of broken down in a simple way in 6 specific steps, which we just call the growth formula or the growth process. And as you can see, it's an acronym, so it's GROWTH, growth. What most companies do is you just focus on generating leads. Oh, let's just we need more leads, instead of really looking at their follow-up. Some are just saying, okay, we generate leads and we're going to close deals without really actually managing their leads, following up, building relationships. They're just trying to immediately close deals. Or they're not thinking about the long-term follow-up. They're not thinking about that a sales cycle in real estate is extremely long. They're just trying to close deals right away. Or they implement these things, but they're not even tracking their data. Or they have all these things, or they don't have all these things, and they're just not operating to high standards. They're just still accepting low standards from their team somewhere, which we're going to get into as well. So let me explain the growth formula step by step, right? So you can actually start implementing this. So first of all, we start with generate. As you can see, we have a result here with Mobile Beachfront. We literally spent 15,000 in advertising budget, and we got 170,000 back in profit. You got 170,000 commissions back. And this is a process that you should should build, basically, right? And that starts with generating leads, but it also, the follow-up has an effect, your team structures have an effect, even the culture of your business has an effect. If you want to generate leads outside of your network referrals and portals, we think meta advertising campaigns are the quickest way to generate high quality leads. It's also the quickest way to generate low quality leads if you not do it right. But let's say it's meta advertising. It's just the easiest strategy that tracks precisely what you've spent and what you got into return. But the first step is generating. And if portals work for you, then portals work for you. And then you need to scale that. If exhibitions work for you, then exhibitions work for you. If Google works for you, then Google works for you. That's all fine. We've just found that meta is the most efficient way if you do it right. But the first step is you need to focus on, okay, how do I generate high quality leads so that my team can actually follow up with quality leads? The second step is relationship management. So we implement a CRM system for our clients, but in order to keep your database organized and have all the marketing and sales tools you need to convert leads, a quality CRM system is essential to maximize your return. And most CRM systems or spreadsheets, which is even worse, if you're using spreadsheets, stop it now, please. They're simply not good enough. And even if you only get 10 leads per month, start with a CRM. Because the CRM will make sure that you will remember when to follow up with someone. And in this long-term sales cycle market or industry that we're in, that is extremely essential. The second step is outreach. What I see is 95% of real estate agencies, developers, they're losing hundreds of thousands or more in revenue because of a broken follow-up process. And it's essential to implement a follow-up process or protocol that actually optimizes for the highest pickup rate, the highest conversion rate, and the highest show-up rate. And I'll give you one free nugget extra, and that's implement one person who follows up with all the leads and then schedules the appointments in the agent's calendar. Because the agents don't want to follow up, the agents don't want to track their data, the agents don't want to update the CRM system. They just want to build relationships and close deals, right? So on average, our pickup rate, people who respond and pick up the phone, is between 60 to 70%, which is generally quite high compared to most. Then on average, we book between 15 to 20% of the leads into an actual appointment, which you can see here, 19% of the leads booked an appointment. And then we even track the show rate. So maybe we can schedule all the appointments you want and follow up all we want, but if only 20% shows up, then you're wasting the time of your team. So this outreach is the most important step. Without a specific outreach formula and a protocol, and that's a consistent and frequent enough outreach, the whole process will not work because you won't have this data, and you need this data to actually determine if a lead is quality or not. Then, winning deals. So you want to measure exactly how much deals you got from a specific scalable method, like meta ads, for example, or organic, doesn't matter. But you want to know how much deals you got specifically from that strategy. In the end, only return on investment matters. And most real estate companies spend their marketing budget completely unaware, doing marketing because they have to. We have this marketing budget for this year, let's see where we're going to spend it. Instead of, okay, let's figure out a strategy where we get X amount of return and then start scaling that. Because a marketing budget is completely irrelevant, right? Of course, it depends on how much revenue you made last year and how much cash flow you have. But if you know that you have a process that €1 returns 5 or 10, then you can scale it indefinitely. You always want to spend your marketing budget extremely intentional, and you do that by measuring the numbers in your follow-up and winning your deals. So then tracking data, I've already covered this. But as you can see here, by tracking data, you actually know where the inefficiencies are and where you can actually optimize and where you have to optimize. What most of the time happens, let's try something, not test and optimize. Let's try this, or let's try this advertising for a month, or let's try this strategy for a month. Testing and doing something for a long time is exactly how you're going to achieve these results. It's not trying something one time and then, oh, it didn't work. It's implementing something with focus, seeing what the results are, changing the things that you need to change, and then constantly optimizing. Then you reach the result. We're all too short-term minded to say, let's test something, didn't work, okay, let's try something else. And that's why you keep being stuck in the same loop. Are you tracking your cost per lead? Are you tracking your return on investment? But also, are you tracking everything in between? Because then you know where the fault lies. Are you tracking how many leads convert into appointments? Are you tracking how many appointments actually showed up? Because if you're not tracking this data and you make one change in your strategy, how do you know the effect of that change? right? If I know, okay, my conversion rate from lead to appointment is 10%, and I change something in the advertisement and the follow-up protocol stays the same, and the conversion increases to 15%, I know that my change has a positive effect. And this is something that we should keep doing. But if you change something and we don't really know precisely what happened, we don't really know if the change had an effect, positive or negative. And these are all the things where you keep being stuck in the same loop over and over again. And the most important thing is this: high standards. So this is where true change happens. You can only grow your business if you grow yourself. And most of the time, somewhere in your business, you're still accepting low standards. Not tracking data is low standards. It's you accepting that there's no clarity in your business. Not having a specific goal is having low standards, because you are accepting that you don't have a direction. You have a direction maybe, but you don't have a specific point where you want to aim for. Your team not following up with leads is you accepting low standards from your team. It's accepting that this behavior of not following up with leads or not updating the CRM system is normal. And by not telling them, or eventually maybe not firing them if they don't honor your standards, you're accepting that this is normal within your agency or your business. But these are just some small examples, right? Low standards is also you not taking responsibility for things, maybe, right? Write down, where am I still accepting low standards in my company? From myself or from my team, or both? And write a few things down. So what's next, right? So how to achieve point B as fast as possible? Well, first of all, you can just do nothing and stay stuck in the same loop. You will live in the same uncertainty. You have no predictable strategy in place. You can keep being comfortable. You can keep working with marketing agencies and lead generators that don't deliver. Then you can try to figure it out by yourself, right? Just say like, hey, we're not going to outsource anymore, but it's going to be expensive. The only way you're going to learn, the only way you're going to grow is by testing, and testing costs money and effort and energy and time. So you're wasting valuable time, and you're also not sure if it actually will work, right? But there's also another option, and that's we can do it together. We can help you implement this process faster, more efficiently, and you can learn from the mistakes that we made for hundreds of real estate agencies, right? And the results that we achieved because of that. So I want to introduce to you the Lead Estate Growth Community. In this growth community that we've built it with a specific goal, and that's helping real estate agencies and developers who are stuck in the same loop break out of the loop. We have a step-by-step video tutorials. We have a complete module on every step in the growth formula, a complete 7-module course on how to build, structure, and operate your client acquisition process, from generating leads and follow-up all the way to closing the deal and tracking all sales numbers. We do daily Q&A calls with our team. So every Monday to Friday, we will host Q&A consulting calls about different topics in the client acquisition process. We talk about lead generation, follow-up, sales. And every call, you're able to ask all the questions you need to us, to our team, but also to your colleagues, right? So we can help you build a high converting deal machine. And keep in mind, the way we structured this is not by, oh, let's follow this step-by-step video tutorial and then you're done. No. Yes, the video tutorials are step-by-step, but like we discussed, every business has different obstacles and different issues and different inefficiencies. We're going to focus on your specific inefficiency. Solve that first before you launch ads and start generating more leads, for example, right? So in these calls, we can focus on what's the biggest bottleneck for you now. Let's watch that video course, ask the questions, solve that bottleneck now, and then move to the next bottleneck. Then we have a private community. So all these videos and the Q&As are hosted in the private community where you can connect with hundreds of real estate colleagues all over the world. We plan to make this the biggest real estate, learning community in the world. Connect, learn from others, and you can even send and receive referral clients from your community members, right? And sometimes we invite guest speakers in the real estate industry or outside of the real estate industry that have experience in real estate business, entrepreneurship, so you can learn from the experience of other professionals in the industry. So I want to invite you to click the link and apply to work with us. We're not going to sell you. We want you to break the cycle and finally grow predictably. So if you apply, one of our team members will reach out to you, and one of our growth consultants will schedule a consultation with you. It's a 45-minute to sometimes even an hour consultation. But the only thing that we will focus on is your point A and your point B, and figure out what the actual obstacles are. So if we have given you value, make sure that you click the link, apply to work with us, apply for the free consultation, and see if we're a match to work together. And Only thing I can say is that I can only make impact if you guys will actually apply it and implement it and do the exercises that we've talked about today. So good luck with that. Maybe we'll see you on the consultation. Thank you for making it to the end.